That's work clothes.
That's work clothes.
Oh, good. That looks good. I like
They're
it.
gonna go in and bring the eyes, and then there's something in there.
Oh, I thought it was big,
Yeah, I did too.
but it was, and then it's an Eileen, you know.
It's the second time they've done it.
I know, but what is it?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Hey, everybody, as the crowd trickles in, we'll let the crowd trickle in. Enjoy the festive spirit, and then we'll begin in a little bit. Yeah. That's what your stomach will sound like, 6 months from now when you get the home touch.
Oh, it'll be there, yeah, exactly. It'll take me over.
Don't forget to sign up for the synagogue pool. We want to know when the last time they're going to serve hamantashen at a kiddush this year, okay? I've got November 16th. I got that covered, but
I'll take my birthday October.
yeah.
You should see my freezer.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. I love hamantashen. Yeah, I think they're great. All right. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. You guys practice your grog. Everyone get a grog and a Megillah, right? Or this one. It's pretty cool. Okay. Give them a couple more minutes.
I was gonna call you, and I thought, no, it's too late, he's on his way here. We thought it was 6 o'clock. We got here at 10 after 6.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know all of a sudden, so.
I had this for my mind, say 7. Did you guys help set up?
I guess making it out, there's another 6 in my head. The only thing, I noticed that Haggadah was out, I knew that was wrong, but, yeah, they had the Haggadah. I just say, right. But Linda figured out got the books out.
Are you okay, Sean? I said, are you okay? It's Christy at the table? No. Tony did. Karen said Tony was off.
No, I mean right now.
No, we have to do that.
All right, everybody, let's begin. We're going to do a quick davening of Ma'ariv, and then we can get into the Megillah reading as people filter in.
What?
So, I'll let, here comes the Megillah gorilla. Oh, we know him as, he's getting ready. All right, we're going to begin, in our book, they have Roman numerals, very interesting. So we begin on Roman numeral 1, and I'll invite you to rise for the first couple lines before the Baruch Hu. Roman numeral 1. V'hurachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchit v'raval hashiva po v'lo yir kol chamato Adonai Yoshia hamelech ganenu v'yom korenu Baruch Hu et Adonai mevorach Baruch Adonai mevorach le'olam va'ed. Be seated. We can read together. Praised are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who with your word bring on the evening twilight. With wisdom you open the gates of the heavens, and with understanding change the times and seasons, and arrange the stars in the sky according to your will. You create day and night, you turn light into darkness, and darkness into light. By your will the day passes into night. The Lord of creation is your name. O ever-living God, may you rule over us forever. Praise to you, O Lord, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'Ravim. Continue silently. Avat olam b'Yisrael v'chav. V'avadecha tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Roman numeral 2. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושנדם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, שוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך, וילדות בין עיניך, וכתב דם עבדו ביתך ובשעריך. Continue silently on page 3. Let's turn to page 4, Roman numeral 4, and let's read responsively in the English. It is true and certain that there is one God with whom no one can compare.
It is God who saved us from the might of kings and redeemed us from all our oppressors.
Great are the things that God has done. God's wonders are without number. In all ages the Lord has been our help and has rescued us from enemies who tried to destroy us. When the children of Israel beheld the might of the Lord, who redeemed them out of the land of Egypt, they gave thanks unto God and willingly accepted God's rules.
Moses and the children of Israel sang a song to God. With great joy they exclaimed, Who is like you, O Lord, among the mighty? Who is like you, glorious in severely praised, doing wonders?
When you rescued Israel at the sea, your children beheld your supreme power. As you did save Israel from hands stronger than theirs, so you may rescue all your children from oppression. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, G'hai Yisrael. Let's read together page 5, Roman numeral V at the top. Cause us, O Lord our God, to lie down in peace, and raise us up again, O our sovereign, unto life. Spread over us your tent of peace. Direct us through your own good counsel. Save us for the sake of your own honor. Be a shield about us. Remove from us every enemy, the sickness, sword, famine, and sorrow. Help us, O Lord, to resist temptation. Shelter us with your protecting love, for you are our guardian and our deliverer. Our God and sovereign, you are kind and gracious. God, our coming and going, with life and peace, now and forevermore. Praise to you, O Lord, who guards your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Shomer Amo Yisrael Ahad. Let's continue on the rest of the page, page 5 and 6, in the English or the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, HaMelech b'chvado tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed v'al kol ma'asav. Chatzi Kaddish on the bottom of page 6. Yigadav yigadash Shemei Rabbah, v'al madivrachu de v'am nichmachu de v'chechod v'vechod, v'hedach Yecho Beit Yisrael B'Hagala B'Zman Kariv Yimru. Yishemei Rabam Varach Le'olam Ol Me'ol Maya. Yiparach Vishtabach V'Yidma 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 Halal. Shmei Kudusha Brichu. Le'ila Min Kol Bercha Da B'Shira Da Shbrucha Da B'Nechmata. Da B'Yam D'Ama V'Yimru. Amen. So the Arvita Amida begins on Roman numeral 7, and it continues through its conclusion on Roman numeral 11, which is XI. Recited in silence. Be sure to include your own private praise.
And include the insertion for form at the bottom of Roman numeral X.
Take the time you need to complete your individual midah, and we're going to continue on page 12 with the Chatzi Kaddish. Actually, Kaddish Shalem. Yikadav yikadav shemira baha. Velma divrachu tevya michmachu tevachechor mechon v'chedachol beit Yisrael v'agalav isman kariv. V'merel amein. Yishemira b'mevarach v'lamul mel maya. Yiprach v'ishtabach v'idbar v'idmam v'naseh v'dar v'telev v'talal shemir kudusha. Ela min kol bircha dav v'shira dav v'shira dav v'nechmata d'mram v'lema v'imru.
Amen.
Yikabel sotan avot d'hod n'choyes v'agadav v'shmaya v'imru.
Amen.
Yishlam rov m'shamay v'chaim alinu v'kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'rama v'yaseh shalom alinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
You may be seated. So we are about to start reading the Megillah. I'm glad I made it on time. There was this delicious banana pie that was really attractive to me. I can't understand why. I received this email titled, "Can you assist?" I wanted to see if any of you could help this poor person out. Dear sirs or madams, I am a 57-year-old prime minister from Persia. I was accursed over issues relating to recompensing the Jewish people for their devious nature and the sexual harassment of the Queen of Esther during a royal party while King the Ahasuerus was being outside in royal garden. Here in my country, and all my properties, investment, and personal bank accounts traced have been seized. However, I am under house arrest with my wife Zeresh and my 10 sons now, and they prevented our friends, relatives, including my lawyer, from coming to see us until they finish investigation. As things are presently, I may not regain my freedom too soon from what I'm seeing now. So this is where I need help secretly. I have money, 10,000 gold pieces, which I deposited with a reliable financial institution in Nigeria since 450 before the Common Era. In any case, I've decided to seek for a partner abroad that I can trust to give the deposit code and batch number to retrieve this money for me and use it to buy shares for me. I'm ready to offer 10% of the total fund to any interested partner for his or her assistance. Our reply should come to my private email address, hamanniagagite@gmail.com. If you can help, please email me directly. Sincerely, Prime Minister Haman. So if anyone is interested, we have... Yes, it was Prime Minister Haman. Amen. Come on. All right, now we're ready. I invite you to turn to page 6 as our cantor leads us off with the brachot. Brachot before our Purim reading.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu amikra Megillah.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasa nisim lavoteinu b'mim hayim bazman hazeh.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen. Chapter 1, page 6.
Vayehi b'mei Achashverosh, hu Achashverosh, hamoluch meho duvar kusheva, v'esmemea medina, v'yamim ha'im, Kishevet HaMelech Achashverosh, Al Kisei Malchuto, Asher B'Shushan HaBiraha, B'Shenat Shalom L'Malcho, Asa HaMishteh, L'Chos Harav V'Yavadav, Chehel Paras Umadai, Apartimim, B'Sar Rea Medino L'Fanav, Bihar Oto, Ed Osher Kevod Malchuto, V'Yikar Tiveret Gedulato, Yamim Rabim, Shmodim Umeah Had Yohom, V'imlod hayamim ha'eleh, asa ha'melech l'chol ha'am ha'nimtzim. B'Shushan ha'biral migado v'arkatan, mishteh shivat yamim b'chatzar, kinat bitan ha'melech, chor karpasu dechelet, אחוז בכבלי ועוז וארגמן, אגילי כסף ועמודי שיש, מיתות זהב הכסף, רצפת בהד ושש ודרס אחרת, והשקות בכלי זהב וכלים מכלים שונים, ויין מלכות רב יד המלך, ושתיח חדת בין אונס, כי כן יסוד המלך, על כל רב ביתו לעשות כרצון איש ואיש, גם ושתי המלכה, עשתה משתי נשים בית המלכות, אשר למלך אחשוורוש, ביום השביעי, כתוב לב המלך ביין, אמר למהלמן, בזדחר עוונה בכתבה בגדה זיתר וחרקש, 17 ריסים, המשרתים את פני המלך אחשוורוש להביא את ושתי המלכה לפני המלך בחדר מלכות, להראות העמים והשרים את יפיה, כי דבת מראה היא ותמאן המלכה ושתי לבוא בדבר המלך אשר ביד הסריסים, ויגזוף המלך מאוד וחמתו ברהבו, ויאמר המלך לחכמים יודע איתים, כי כן דבר המלך לפני כל יודע דת ודין, והקרוב אליו קרשנה שיתר אדמתה תרשיש, מרסנה ממוכן שבעת שרי פרס ומדי, רואי פני המלך היושבים ראשונה במלכות, כי דעת מה לעשות במלכה ושתי, על אשר לא עשתה את מאמר המלך אחשוורוש ביד הסריסים, ויאמר ממוכן לפני המלך והשרים, לא על המלך לבדו עבדה ושתי המלכה, כי על כל השרים ועל כל העמים אשר בכל מדינות המלך אחשוורוש, כי יצא דבר המלכה על כל הנשים, להבזות בעליהם בעיניהן. באמרם המלך אחשוורוש אמר, להביא את ושתי המלכה לפניו ולובתה, ויום הזה תאמרנה שרות פרס ומדי, אשר שמעו את דבר המלכה לכל שרי המלך, וכדי ביזיון וקצף. אם על המלך טוב, יצא דבר מלכות מלפניו, ויקטב בדעתי פרס ומדי ולא יעבור, אשר לא תבוא ושתי לפני המלך אחשוורוש, ומלכותה ייתן המלך לראותה הטובה ממנה, ונשמע פתגם המלך אשר יעשה בכל מלכותו, כי רבה היא וכל הנשים, ינו יקר לבעליהן, למגדול ועד קטן. ויטב הדבר בעיני המלך והשרים, ועשה המלך כדבר ממוכן, ושלח סברים על כל מדינות המלך, אל מדינה ככתבה, ואל עם בעם כלשונו, לעוד כל איש שורר בביתו, ומדבר כלשון עמו.
Chapter 2. You'll hear some words said a little differently. I was using a different translation, and it's bigger print. Sometime afterward, when the anger of King Ahasuerus, nobody's going to say Gesundheit?
Oh, Gesundheit.
Thank you. Subsided, he thought of Vashti and what she had done, and what had been decreed against her. The king's servants who attended him said, "Let beautiful young virgins be brought out for your majesty. Let your majesty appoint officers in every province of your realm to assemble all the beautiful young virgins at the fortress Shushan, in their harem under the supervision of Haggai, the king's eunuch, guardian of the women. Let them be provided with their cosmetics, and let the maiden who pleases your majesty be queen instead of Vashti." The proposal pleased the king, and he acted upon it. In the fortress Shushan lived a Jew by the name of Mordecai, son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjamite. He had been exiled from Jerusalem in the group that was carried into exile along with the king Jeconiah of Judah,
which had been driven into exile by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He was father to Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The maiden was shapely and beautiful, and when her father and mother died, Mordecai adopted her as his own daughter. When the king's order and edict was proclaimed, and when many girls were assembled in the fortress Shushan under the supervision of Haggai, Esther, too, was taken into the king's palace under the supervision of Haggai, guardian of the women. The girl pleased him and won his favor, and he hastened to furnish her with her cosmetics and her rations, as well as with 7 maids who were due from the king's palace. And he treated her and her maids with special kindness in the harem. Esther did not reveal her people or her kindred, for Mordecai had told her not to reveal it. Every single day, Mordecai would walk around in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was faring and what happened to her. When each girl's turn came to King Ahasuerus, thank you. At the end of the 12 months of treatment prescribed for women, for that was the period spent on beautifying them, 6 months with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfumes and women's cosmetics. And it was after that the girl would go to the king. Whatever she asked for would be given to her to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. She would go in the evening and leave in the morning for a second harem in charge of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch, guardian of the concubines. She would not go again to the king unless the king wanted her, when she would be summoned by name. When the turn came for Esther, daughter of Abigail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had adopted her as his own daughter, to go to the king, she did not ask for anything but what Haggai, the king's eunuch, guardian of the women, advised. Yet Esther won the admiration of all who saw her. Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus. Thank you. In his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebet, in the 7th year of his reign. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she won his grace and favor more than all the virgins. So he set a royal diadem on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. The king gave a great banquet for all his officials and courtiers, that banquet of Esther. He proclaimed a remission of taxes for the provinces and distributed gifts as befits a king. When the virgins were assembled a second time, Mordecai sat in the palace gate, but Esther still did not reveal her kindred or her people, as Mordecai had instructed her, for Esther obeyed Mordecai's bidding, as she had done when she was under his tutelage. At that time, when Mordecai was sitting in the palace gate, Bigtan and Teresh, 2 of the king's eunuchs who guarded the threshold, became angry and plotted to do away with King Ahasuerus.
Bless you.
Thank you. Mordecai learned of it and told it to Queen Esther, and Esther reported it to the king in Mordecai's name. The matter was investigated and found to be so, and the 2 were impaled on stakes. Ooh. This was recorded in the book of Annals at the instance of the king. We are now on chapter 3, page 14.
אחר הדברים האלה גידל המלך אחשוורוש את המן. בדעת הגגי וינשאהו וישם את כיסו מעל כל השרים אשר איתו. כל עבדי המלך אשר בשער המלך קוראים משתחווים להמן. כי כן ציווה לו המלך ומרדכי לא יכרע ולא ישתחווה. ויאמרו עבדי המלך אשר בשער המלך למרדכי, מדוע אתה עובר את מצוות המלך? ויהי ברמם אליו יום ביום ולא שמע עליהם. ויגידו להמן, לראות היעמדו דברי מרדכי, כי יגיד להם אשר הוא יהודי וירא המן. כי אין מרדכי קורא משתחווה לו וימלא המן. וימה ויבז בעיניו לשלוח יד במרדכי לבדו, כי יגידו לו את מרדכי ויבקש המן. להשמיד את כל היהודים אשר בכל מלכות אחשוורוש מרדכי. בחודש הראשון הוא חודש ניסן, בשנת 12 למלך אחשוורוש, הפיל פור, הוא הגורל לפני המן. מיום מחודש לחודש 12 וחודש אדר, ויאמר המן למלך אחשוורוש, ישנו עם אחד מפוזר מפורד בין העמים בכל מדינות מלכותך, ודעותיהם שונות מכל העם, ודעתי המלך אינם עושים, ולמלך אין שווה להניחם. אם על המלך טוב ייכתב לעבדם, ו10,000 כיכר כסף, אשקול על ידי עושי המלאכה להביא את גנזי המלך, ויאסר המלך את בתו מעל ידו, ויתנה למן. בין עמדת הגגית סורר היהודים, ויאמר המלך להמן, הכסף נתוך לך והעם לעשות בו כטוב בעיניך, ויקראו סוררי המלך בחודש הראשון, ב13 יום בו, ויכתב כל אשר ציווה המן. אלא חשת פני המלך ואל הפחות אשר על מדינה ואל שרי עם ועם, מדינה על מדינה ככתבה ועם ועם כלשונו, בשם המלך אחשוורוש נכתב ונחתם בטבעת המלך, ונשלוח ספרים ביד הרצים אל כל מדינות המלך, להשמיד, להרוג ולהביא את כל היהודים. מנער ועד זקן טף נשים ביום אחד, ב13 לחודש 12 הוא חודש אדר, ושל עולם להבות. בית שגן הכתב, להינתן דת בכל מדינה, גלוי לכל העמים, להיות עתידים ליום הזה, הרצים. יצאו דחופים בדבר המלך, והדת ניתנה בשושן הבירה, והמלך והמן ישבו לשתות, וירא שושן ונבוכה.
We're now on page 16, chapter 4.
17.
All right, 17. We're doing it in English. You're right. When Mordecai learned that all that had happened, Mordecai tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes. He went through the city crying out loudly and bitterly until he came to the front of the palace gate, for one could not enter the palace gate wearing sackcloth. Also, in every province that the king's command and decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and wailing, and everybody lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's maidens and eunuchs came and informed her, the queen was greatly agitated. She sent clothing for Mordecai to wear so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he refused. Thereupon Esther summoned Hatash, one of the eunuchs, whom the king had appointed to serve her, and sent him to Mordecai to learn the why and wherefore of it all. Hatash went out to put Mordecai in the city square in front of the palace gate, and Mordecai told him all that had happened to him, and about all the money that Haman had offered to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave them the written text of the law that had been proclaimed in Shushan for their destruction. He bade him to show it to Esther and inform her and charge her to go to the king and appeal to him and to plead with him for her people. When Hathach came and delivered Mordecai's message to Esther, Esther told Hathach to take back to Mordecai the following reply. The king's courtiers and the people of the king's provinces know that if any person, man or woman, enters the king's presence in the inner court without having been summoned, there is but one law for him, that he be put to death. Only the king extends the golden scepter to him. May he live. Now I have not been summoned to visit the king for the last 30 days. Mordecai was told that what Esther had said. Mordecai had this message delivered to Esther. Do not imagine that you of all the Jews will escape with your life by being in the king's palace. On the contrary, if you keep silent in this crisis, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another quarter, while you and your father's house will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have attained to royal position for such a crisis. Then Esther sent this message back to Mordecai. Go and assemble all the Jews who live in Shushan and fast on my behalf. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens will observe the same fast. Then I shall go to the king, though it is contrary to the law. And if I am to perish, I shall perish. So Mordecai went about the city and did just as Esther had commanded him. We are now on
page 20.
Chapter 5.
Vayhi bayom hashlishi, vatil bashester malchut, vata'amol, bakatzar beit hamelech hapinimit, nochach beit hamelech, vehamelech, yoshev, agizi malchuto beveit hamalchut, nochach petach habayit, vayhi, chirot hamelech et ester hamalkah, omeret bechatzar, nasachin be'inav, vayoshet hamelech lester, et sharvit azahav asher biyado, vatigra vester, vatiga berosh, asharvit, vayomer la hamelech malach lester hamalgah, mabakashatei charchatzi hamalchut vayinatin lach, vadomer ester, im al hamelech tov, yavo hamelech ve'amahan. Hayom el amishta asher asiti laho, vayomer hamelech maharu et Haman. La'asot et devar Esther, vayavo hamelech ve'Haman. El amishta asher asta Esther, vayomer hamelech le'Esther b'mishta yayin, ma shalatich v'inatin lach, Mabakashati, Chad Chatzia Malchut, V'te'ahas, Vatan Esther, Vatomar, Sheilati, Vakashati, Imatati, Chen Beinei HaMelech, Vim, Al HaMelech Tov, Latet, Et Sheilati, V'lasot, Bakashati, Yavo, HaMelech V'Haman. El amishte asher selahem, ye'umachar esek yidvar hamelech, vayetzi Haman. Bayom ahu sameach v'tov liv, v'chirot Haman. En Mordechai b'shar hamelech, v'lo kam, v'lo zam imenu, v'imale Haman. Al Mordechai chima v'tapik Haman. Vayavo el beito vayishlach vayavi et ohavav et zeresh ishto v'saper lahem Haman. Et kuvod ashro v'rov banav v'hid kol asher gid lo hamelech V'dasher niso ala sarim b'avdei hamelech vayomer Haman. Aha, lo hevi aha, Esther malkaha im hamelech, el mishter shasata, ki moti v'gam lemachar, ani karula im hamelech, v'choze einenu, shove lihi b'choli, asher ani roeh, et Mordechai Yehudi, Yoshev b'shar hamelech, v'tomer lo zeresh ishto, v'chol havav, Yasu eitz gavoa chamishim amaha v'boker emor lamelech v'yitlu et Mordechai alav uvaho im hamelech el hamishter sameach v'yitahav hadavar lifnei Haman. V'yasa eitz.
I keep losing my place. Let me borrow your yacht. So nice of you to give me a hand.
Yeah, not a problem.
We're on chapter 6, page 23. That night, sleep deserted the king, and he ordered the book of records, the annals, to be brought, and it was read to the king. There was found that Mordecai had denounced Bigtanah and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, who guarded the threshold, who had plotted to do away with King Ahasuerus. Thank you. What honor or advancement has been conferred on Mordecai for this? The king inquired. Nothing at all has been done for him, replied the king's servants who were in attendance to him. Who is in the court? The king asked. For Haman. Had just entered the outer court of the royal palace to speak to the king about having Mordecai impaled on the stake he had prepared for him. It is Haman. Standing in the court, the king's servants answered him. Let him enter, said the king. Haman. Entered, and the king asked him, what should be done for a man who the king desires to honor? Haman said to himself, whom would the king desire to honor more than me? So Haman said to the king, for the man whom the king desires to honor, let royal garb which the king has worn be brought, and a horse on which the king has ridden, and on whose head a royal diadem has been set. And let the attire and the horse be put in the charge of one of the king's noble courtiers. And let the man whom the king desires to be honored be attired and paraded on the horse through the city square, while they proclaim before him, this is what is done for the man who the king desires to honor. Quick, then, said the king to Haman. Get the garb and the horse, as you have said, and do this to Mordecai the Jew, who sits in the king's gate. Omit nothing of all you have proposed. So Haman took the garb and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and paraded him through the city square. And he proclaimed before him, this is what is done for the man who the king desires to honor. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, while Haman hurried home, his head covered in mourning. There Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had befallen upon him. His advisors and his wife Zeresh said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish stock, you will not overcome him. You will fail before him to your ruin. While they were still speaking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurriedly brought Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared. Chapter 7, page 24.
Hamelech v'Haman. Vishtoti Mestra Malka Bayomer Hamelech Lester Gaham Bayom Hasheni B'Mishte Hayayin Mashe Latehi Chester Malka Vetina Tehilach Babakasha Tehi Chelchatzia Malchut V'Teyahas Vatanester Malka Vatomar Imatadichi Beinecha HaMelech V'im Ala Melech Tov Tinaten Li Nafshi B'Sheilati V'Ami Bevakashati Ki Nimkarnu Aniv Ami Lashmi Lahargo La'abehir Ve'iluhu Lavadim V'Lish Vachot Nimkarnu Hecherashtihi Ki Ein Chatzahar Shoveh B'Nezek HaMelech Vayomer HaMelech Achashverosh Vayomer Esther Malka Mehu Zev Ezehu Asher Mela'oli Bahol Asod Gein Vatomer Esther Ish Sarve Oyev Haman Hara Hazeh Ve'Haman Nibat Milifnei HaMelech V'Malka Ve'Hamelech Kam B'Chamato Mimishte Hayayin El Ginat Habitan Ve'Aman Amahad Levakish Al Navsho Esther Malka Kira Kichata Ilaha Vara Me'it HaMelech Ve'Hamelech Shav Miginat Habitan El Beit Mishte Hayayin Ve'Aman Nofel Alamita Asher Esther Aleha Vayomer HaMelech Hagaham Lichba Hosed HaMalka Imi Papayit Hadavar Yatsa Mipi HaMelech Umfene Hamahan Chavu Vayomer Charvahona Echad Min Hazarasim Lifnei HaMelech Gam Hine Ha'etz Asher Asa Haman Ve'Mordechai Asher Diber Tov Al HaMelech Omed Beveit Haman Gavoa Chamishim Ama V'Yomer HaMelech Tulu Alav Vayitlu Et Haman Al Ha'etz Asher Echin Mordechai V'chamat HaMelech Shachaka.
Chapter 8, page 27. That very day, King Ahasuerus, thank you, gave the property of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther. Mordecai presented himself to the king, for Esther had revealed how he was related to her. The king slipped off his ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's property. Esther spoke to the king again, falling at his feet and weeping, and beseeching him to avert the evil plotted by Haman, the Agagite, against the Jews. The king extended the golden scepter to Esther. And Esther arose and stood before the king. If it please your majesty, she said, and if I have won your favor and the proposal seems right to your majesty, and if I am pleasing to you, let dispatches be written countermanding those which were written by Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, embodying his plot to annihilate the Jews throughout the king's provinces. For how can I bear to see the disaster that will befall my people? And how can I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? Then King Ahasuerus, thank you, said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, I have given Haman's property to Esther, and he has been impaled on the stake for scheming against the Jews. and you may further write with regard to the Jews as you see fit. Write in the king's name and seal it with the king's signet. For an edict that has been written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet may not be revoked. So the king's scribes were summoned at that time on the 23rd day of the 3rd month, that is the month of Sivan. And the letters were written at Mordecai's dictation to the Jews and to the satraps, the governors, and the officials of the 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, to every province in its own script and to every people in its own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. He had them written in the name of King Ahasuerus. Thank you. And sealed with the king's signet. Letters were dispatched by the mountain courtiers, riding steeds used in the king's service, bred of the royal stud to this effect. The king has permitted the Jews of every city to assemble and fight for their lives, and if any people or province attacks them, they may destroy, massacre, and exterminate its armed force together with women and children and plunder their possessions on a single day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. Thank you. Namely, on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is the month of Adar. The text of the document was to be issued as a law in every single province. It was to be publicly displayed in all the people so that the Jews should be ready for this day to avenge themselves on their enemies. The courtiers, mounted on royal steeds, went out in urgent haste at the king's command, and the decree was proclaimed in the fortress Shushan. Mordecai left the king's presence in royal robes of blue and white, with a magnificent crown of gold and a mantle of fine linen and purple wool. And the city of Shushan rang with joyous cries. Yay! The Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor, and in every province and in every city, when the king's command and decree arrived, there was gladness and joy among the Jews, a feast and a holiday. And many of the people of the land professed to be Jews, for the fear of the Jews had fallen upon them. We are now on chapter 9, page 30. Listen carefully as we get to verses 7 through 10, and see if he breathes.
Uvishneim Asar Chodesh Hu Chodesh Adar Bishlosa Asar Yom Bo Asher Egiya Devar HaMelech Vidato Lehi Asor Bayom Asher Sibruhu Oivei HaYehudim Lishlod Bahem V'nafochu Asher Yishletu HaYehudim Hema Bisonehem Nikalu HaYehudim Ba'arehem Chomeninot HaMelech Achashverosh Yisroachad B'mivakshei Ra'at Jaham V'ish Lo Amad B'fneihem Ginava Bachda Makol Ha'amim V'kol Sarei HaMedinot V'achash Dar Pinim V'apachot V'osei HaMalacha Asher LaMelech Mi Nasim Et HaYehudim Ginava Bachad Mordechai Aleihem Ki Gadol Mordechai B'veit HaMelech V'shamo Holech B'kol HaMedinot Ki Ha'ish Mordechai Holech V'gadol V'yakol HaYehudim B'kol Oiveihem Magad Cherev V'hereg V'avadahan V'asu V'soneihem Kirtzonaham V'shushan HaBirah Haragol HaYehudim V'abid Chamesh Meyot Ish Ved Parshanta Vedalphon Vedasvata Vedbarata Vedalaya Vedaridata Vedbarmasta Vedarisai Vedaridai Vedvayizata Aseret B'nei Haman Ben Amedata Sra Yehudim Haragu Uva Bizaha Lo Shachu Et Yadam Bayom Hahu Ba Mispah Harugim B'Shushan HaBirah Lifnei HaMelech V'yomer HaMelech L'stir HaMalka B'Shushan HaBirah Horgu Hayodim V'abid Chamesh Meyot Ish V'it Aseret B'nei Haman Bish'ahar Midinot HaMelech Me'asu Uma Shalatech V'inatin Lach Mabakashatech Hod V'te'ahas V'atomer Ester Im Al HaMelech Tov Hinatein Gambachar LaYehudim Asher B'Shushan לעשות כדת היום והית 10 בני המן. יתלו עלי ויאמר המלך לעשות כן, ותינתן דת בשושן והית 10 בני המן. קלו ויקלו היהודים אשר בשושן גם ביום 14 לחודש אדר, והרגו בשושן 300 איש, ובהביזה לא שלחו את ידם. ושאר היהודים אשר במדינות המלך נקלו בהמות על נפשם, ונוכח מאויביהם, והרג בשונם 75,000, ובהביזה לא שלחו את ידם. ביום 13 לחודש אדר, ונוכח ב14 בו, ועשה אותו יום משתה ושמחה. ויהודים אשר בשושן נקהלו ב13 בו וב14 בו, ונוכח ב15 בו, ועשה אותו יום משתה ושמחה. על כן יהודים הפרזים היושבים בערי הפרזות עושים את יום 14 לחודש אדר שמחה משתה ויום טוב, משלוח מנות ישתבחו. ויכתוב מרדכי את הדברים האלה, וישלח ספרים אל כל היהודים אשר בכל מדינות המלך אחשוורוש, הקרובים והרחוקים, לקיים עליהם להיות עושים את יום 14 לחודש אדר והית יום 15 בו, בכל שנה ושנה כימים אשר נחלו בהם היהודים אויביהם, והחודש אשר נהפך להם מיגון לשמחה ומאבל ליום טוב, לעשות אותם ימי משתה ושמחה, משלוח מנות משתבחו ומתנות לאביונים. וקיבל היהודים את אשר החלו לעשות, ואת אשר כתב מרדכי עליהם, כי המן בן המידת הגגית סובר את היהודים, חשב היהודים לעבדם, ופולפול הגורל לחלומם לעבדם, ותבואה לפני המלך, אמר עם הספר, ישוב מחשבתו הרע אשר חשב היהודים על ראשו, ותלו אותו ואת בניו על העץ, כן קראו הימים האלה פורים על שם הפור, כן על כל דברי האיגרת הזאת, ומה ראול על ככה, ומה הגיע עליהם. קיבלו וקיבלו היהודים עליהם ועל זרעם ועל כל הגלויים עליהם לא יעבור, להיות עושים את שני הימים האלה ככתבם וכזמנם בכל שנה ושנה. בימים האלה נזכרים ונעשים בכל דור ודור, משפחה או משפחה, מדינה מדינה ועיר ועיר, וימי הפורים האלה לא יעברו מתוך היהודים, וזרחם לא יסוף מזרעם. ותכתוב אסתר המלכה בת אביחיל מרדכי יהודי את כל תכף לקיים את איגרת הפורים הזאת השנית, וישלח ספרים אל כל היהודים אל 27 מדינה, מלכות אחשוורוש, דברי שלום ואמת, לקיים את ימי הפורים האלה בזמניהם, כאשר קיים עליהם מרדכי יהודי ואסתר המלכה, וכאשר גימו על נפשם ועל זרעם דברי עצומות וזעקתם. מאמר אסתר קיים דברי הפורים האלה, ונכתב בספר.
Chapter 10, the bottom of page 34.
וישם המלך אחשוורוש מס על הארץ וים, חמסי תקפו גבורתו, ופרשת גדולת מרדכי אשר גילו המלך, הלא הם כתובים Al Sefer Divrei Hayamim L'Malchim Madai Ufaras Ki Mordechai Yehudi Mishneh LaMelech Achashverosh V'Gadol HaYehudi B'Ratzui Larov Echav Doresh Tov L'Amo V'Dover Shalom L'Chol Zaro. Baruch Tiyeh. Thank you. I think what we should do is conclude the davening, and then we'll sing a couple Purim songs before we retreat for a nice festive meal, okay? So, let's go to the Kaddish Shalem, which is on page 43. You can have a Kaddish Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Tamadi Brachu, Tevam Nichbach, Tevachaychon, Vechon, Vachaychon, Beit Yisrael, Bagalav Yisman, Kariv, Yibru.
Amen.
Yeh Shemei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'olam Ol Me'ol Maya. Yibrach Vishtabach, Yidbah, Yidbah, Minaseh, Yidbah, 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 Shmei Tukudishah.
Brechu.
Leila Mikam Yirkadav, Shivadav, Shivadav, Nechamadah, Damiram Lamav, Yibru.
Amen.
Yishlam Rabba, Min Shemai, V'chaim, Adin Kol Yisrael, Yibru.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom, B'rumav, Yaseh Shalom, Adin Kol Yisrael, Yibru. Amen. Then on page 44, we join together in Aleinu. Aleinu.
Aleinu Shavei Agladon, Hakol, Lahignu, Lahignu, Bereshit, Shalom, Hashem, Kivei Arasav, Velo Zamanel, Kivit Bechol Adama, Shalom, Naginu Bahem, Vegol Aleinu, Gelom Hamonam, Hanam Nugori, Amishachim Ulmodi, Lifnei Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim Ve'yotzei Haaretz, Amachshav Yikaram HaShamayim Ima'al, Otzin Hadozo, Otzin Hadozo, Begavei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Eino, Emet Maginu Eretz Uvado, Kagadu Vegorado, Vegadayom Ve'hashevada, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, B'shamayim ima'al, Ve'al haaretz mitachas Eino. Kagatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar ha'ya Adonai, le'melech ha'kol haaretz, b'yom ha'hu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo We turn to Mourner's Kaddish, page 46. Those who are observing Yahrzeit tonight and tomorrow, and those who are in Shloshim or extended Shloshim. Page 46. Yid Gadal v'Yid Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'Amad Divrach Hirutei v'Amlich Malchutei B'chayechon of Yomechonu v'chayedecha Beit Yisrael Ba'agalav v'zman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach v'Elam Me'amaya Yid Barak v'Yishtabak v'Yid Par v'Yid Tromam v'Yid Naseh v'Yid Tadar v'Talev v'Talal Shemei D'Kudashah
Barichu.
La'ila min kol berchata v'shirata Tush b'chata v'nekamata Da'amiran b'yalma v'yimru
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal Kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mermav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru
Amen. You may be seated. I'd like to sing a couple songs. The first one can be found on page 38. These are songs we're very familiar with. There's some songs in this book whose melodies I'm just not familiar with. Kind of wish I was. But let's start with page 38, and then we'll go to the most famous Purim song of all on page 41. 38 goes like this. Ani Purim, sameach umvadeach, halo rak ba'am bashana avo lehidareach. Lai, 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 ya la lai, 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 ya lai, 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 ya la lai, ya lai, lai, lai. Hedad Purim, Akutov Umtzil Dayim, Homi Yiteinu Vaporim, the Chodesh Lechodshayim. Ya 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 la lai, lai 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 ya lai, ya lai lai ya la lai, ya lai lai. Rabbi Purim, Emor Nali Madua. Madua lo yacho porim b'mayim b'shavua. Lai 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 ya la lai, lai 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 ya lai, ya lai lai ya la lai, ya lai lai lai. Page 41. We all know this one. Chag Purim, Chag Gadol Layodim, Masechot Rashanim Zemirot Rikodim. Havana Risha, Rash, Rash, Rash. Havana Risha, Rash, Rash, Rash. Havana Risha, Rash, Rash, Rash. Ba'arashanim. Chag Borim, Ze Shochim Manot. Machmadim, Mamtakim, Tufim, Migdanot. Havana Risha, Rash, Rash, Rash. Havana Risha, Rash, Rash, Rash. Havana Risha, Rash, Rash, Rash. Ba'arashanim. Now, the very famous Purim song, it's in English. I only haven't memorized, but I kind of remember the first verse. So we'll do this. If you guys know any of the other verses, carry on. I know you know the chorus. Oh, once there was a wicked, wicked man, and Haman was his name, sir. He would have murdered all the Jews, though they were not to blame, sir. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be, and not some fomentation. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary. Not beginning and not some fomentation. Speaking of nosh and some fomentation, it's wonderful to see you all, especially, and it's lovely to see all you dressed up in costume. In case you're wondering, I'm Dapper Dan, just in case. And let's go now and let's have a nice meal in the multi-purpose room. Yashikoach, Rabbi, Yashikoach. You really bring the spirit. I love your outfit there, SpongeBob. I love this.
So who collects it? All right.
Thank you, sir. Did you get this one?
Oh, yes.